Marco. So yeah, hi. As Marco said, I work at Microsoft as the technical specialist, covering 33 countries. So yeah, we do a lot of work with students, universities, high schools, ministries, and so on. And the last 2 years have been very interesting, so to say, because we all experienced COVID in one way or another. We all had some areas where we were either working from home or having remote schooling and so on. But yeah, today I really want to focus on what you as students have, what you can use, what you can take advantage of. And I know we all love long PowerPoints, so I don't have one. I was mostly hoping to do a couple of demos just to show you some of the cool things that you have available and how to use it. And then, yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to either put them in chat, or at the end, I think we have 15 minutes of Q&A, and we can also take that time afterwards. With that said, so I'm having a little bit of internet issues today. So if you don't mind, I'll turn off my camera for the presentation, and I'll be sharing my screen anyway, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, now let's start with the first demo. So if I want to see everything that's available to me, the best starting point in this case would be if I just go on office.com, log in with my account. So in this case, I'm using a demo account for a demo education account that I have available. And you can do the same. And basically what's most interesting for us here is if we click here on the left-hand side, and let's see all of the apps that are available to us. Okay, so you see that I have quite a lot here. We have those that we know most, so like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on and so on. I won't be focusing that much on those because, let's face it, we all know them, we all use them one way or another. I'll be focusing more on maybe some of the lesser known apps. One more thing that's worth mentioning here is, if you remember, we started here on office.com. So here I have a button that says install Office, and I can download and install Office 365 desktop apps. So all of the Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, everything that we already know, that's kind of the shortcut how I can get it. Now, if I want to check even further what's available to me, I can go here under my account, and I'll be able here to see here under subscriptions, I'll be able to see everything that's available to me. So this plan that I'm using is called A5. This is kind of the highest one available. But still, if you want to look into what's available to you, you can also check it here, and you'll see all of the apps and services that you have. Okay, now with that said, let's switch over to a different window. Hold on, let me just reshare my screen. Okay. Now, since I'm sure that others before me spoke about the Microsoft Student Ambassador Program before, maybe you're already a part of it. Maybe something worth mentioning here is that if you become a student ambassador, one of the things that you'll be getting is this. So $150 of Azure credit. Now, if anyone doesn't know, Azure is kind of the Microsoft cloud. This is where all of our services live, so to say. Even Teams that we are using right now are basically built and running on Azure. So it's a huge beast, and it has a lot of services, a lot of different things that we can use. And usually those services, at least some of them, are paid. But in this case, you basically get $150 every month, and so that you can play around and test out some things. Now, maybe a cool thing that we can start with immediately is we have this service called Q&A Maker. Now, what this is it's a very easy way to create a chatbot. Basically, I don't need to know any programming. I don't need to be a tech engineer or whatever. I can just use the Q&A maker very easily to create a chatbot that I can then either deploy to my website or deploy it somewhere else. And even the training of this AI model is very simple. So if I have a Q&A base, like on a website or in an Excel file, like questions and answers, I can just put that into the Q&A maker and it will automatically generate a bot that I can use to talk with. So let's see how this happens. So first off, I need to create a so-called knowledge base. And the reason why I did this intro with Azure is that I need to have an Azure subscription. So as a student ambassador, I have it, I've activated it, and now I can start with this part here. So all I need to do is basically name my knowledge base. Knowledge base in this case are questions and answers. So I would put whatever I want here, and then I can either point this application to a website or add some files to it. Now, I went to Microsoft Learn, and here you see there's a website called Frequently Asked Questions, and the format is questions and answers. So I'm able to just put this link to the Q&A maker, and automatically the Q&A maker will go to this website and it will try to learn as much as it can. And I can show you in practice how it works. So as you can see, it's like 5 steps, very easy to do. And now we have a knowledge base created. So let me switch over to a knowledge base that I created before. So yeah, this is it. Now, if I'm a programmer, I can use some code how to implement this into my services. If not, I can just click on the name here. And as you see, all I did was I provided the link to this frequently asked questions. So all of those questions, and then Q&A maker was able to, you see here, it detected questions and then answers. And again, questions, answers, and so on. So as you can see, it extracted 51 Q&A pairs, and that was just from providing the link. Now, if I want to see how it works, I can click on test here, and I can say, what's Microsoft Learn? And you see it automatically answered the question. So this is it. In just, let's say, 3 minutes of my time, I was able to create a conversation chatbot that I can then either have on my website or maybe built into my mobile application. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because Q&A Maker, so this application, is just one of the services that you can then use, for example, for your projects. Now, on Azure, let me switch over here. So on Azure, if I go under all services, and if I go under AI and machine learning, so the Q&A makers is what I've been using before. But then there's also, like you can also create voice chatbots. You can also create artificial intelligence to detect, for example, objects on an image, or you have here the Face API somewhere, yeah, Face API. And this, for example, can detect who is on a picture. You can have translation bots. You can have, for example, cognitive services, so it will think and it will give you a result. And all of this can be done with very much little or even zero coding needed. So the idea here is really that you don't need to be a programmer to design a chatbot or to use some artificial intelligence. You can do it directly by just clicking here, going through it. And a very good part also is you can see down here that there's also free trainings available for each and everything. So for example, I did this one, a machine learning experiment, and it's an hour-long session, and it teaches you how to create your own artificial intelligence so that you can, for example, have an application, upload a picture of something or take a picture of something, and then it automatically detects what is on the picture and gives you some feedback on what it was able to detect, for example. So again, very little coding required here, or none at all. And there's some really cool things that are possible to do using these services. So while we are talking about Azure, as you can see here, you also have, for example, storage, databases, you can have virtual machines, you can do things for mixed reality, and so on and so on. So really a lot of features that are available. And like I said, you have credits to take advantage of, so it's free for you. You don't have to pay anything. Okay. Now, since we did this little experiment, let's say cost. See, I don't have to type in like full questions. I can just type in some parts of it, and it will automatically detect it. Let's say content, and you have some more. So all of this, again, with 3 minutes of work, and I have my own chatbot that I can work with. Okay, now maybe let's switch back from the Azure part of doing these chatbots, and maybe let's go back to Office 365. So this is it. Should be seen now. Now, if I look at all of the apps that are available here, the two that maybe I would want to talk about today even more would be PowerApps and PowerAutomate. So again, we live in a world where a lot of automation is taking place, and PowerAutomate, for example, is a solution that helps you automate some of the processes. For example, I have a PowerAutomate flow. This is what automations are called. That tracks how many emails I get per day, and then it creates some graphs at the end of the month so that I can see how many emails I got in the whole month, how many emails I got from one person, how many emails I got on each and every day. And I was able to do that just by connecting some of the pieces of information. So no coding was required. Or for example, I would have a PowerAutomate flow that when my manager emailed me anything, I would also get a notification on Teams and even on my phone. And again, no coding was required. And then we also have PowerApps. And PowerApps in this case is a solution that lets me do applications, again, with no coding or very little coding needed. And I'm going to be showing both of those tools just to kind of show you if you want to get into the no code or low code environments. I think those are very great examples on where to start, and you'll see that it's very, very easy. So let me first start with PowerAutomate. I already have it opened here. So for example, I already have, again, some training here, and I can go through these trainings to kind of get the feeling on how PowerAutomate works. There's also some more how-tos and videos and so on, but let's just start from templates. The good part is, sorry, let me switch to connectors first. The good part is that this lets me not only use Microsoft tools, but it has basically connectors to other applications as well. So for example, you can see here that I can do some automations with Twitter or with RSS. Or if I scroll down further with, let's say, Gmail or Google Drive, Slack, and so on. So for example, I have a colleague and he has this automation that every email that he receives, if it has an attachment, it will save it to their OneDrive folder. And then he also has a separate flow set up. Basically, if he gets any emails with attachments on his private email account on Gmail, it will also take the attachment, save it to OneDrive, and also keep a backup of it on Google Drive. So yeah, there's a lot of connectors here, and the idea is really to have everything ready so that you can just pretty much build on the blocks if you want. So let's see what we have under templates if we don't want to start from scratch. If try to find an interesting one. Okay, for example, this one, get daily reminders. I'm just going to click, continue. And this is how the interface of PowerAutomate looks like. So in this case, PowerAutomate always works with a trigger. So something needs to happen. Trigger can either be time. So for example, once per day. Trigger can be that I manually run something, or trigger can also be that something happens in one of the apps. For example, when an email arrives, or when a new calendar item shows up in my calendar, or when a message on Teams is sent to me, or something like that. In this case, I have interval once per day. If I want to go to advanced options, I can also set, for example, time zones and at what hours and so on and so on. But also, next step here is then the action. So what needs to happen? In my case, I can select who will be getting this email. Let's say I'm sending this to myself. The subject, again, I can either change it here, or I can have dynamic contents as well. So for example, I could set it up that the title would say, hello admin, this is your daily reminder on the date, and today, for example, it would say 6th of December. So with dynamic content, I can use so-called variables. And I would, for example, put date here. Then I put in the body, and let's see if everything's working. I have flow checker here, which basically helps me check if I have any errors. So if there's any fields that I would need to fill out but didn't, or if there's any issues with how I'm structuring this. In my case, it doesn't look like it. Everything seems okay. So I can now save it. I could change the name if I wanted. So up here, I can change the name. And now I can test it. Let's see what happens. So let's say manually test and run. Now what's good is that even when I test it, you see here I have the flow runs page. So this is basically a whole bunch of detailed information, and we can see that there was some issues trying to run this. So I could check why this is the case. I can click, and in my case, it's because this is a new environment and it still hasn't been validated. So I would be able to do this by using something different. But yeah, now at least I know when this was run, how long it took, and what the issue was. I saw that there's some questions in the chat, so let me try to answer. There was a question if you are able to create and share your own templates. Yeah, you are. So when you create a flow, you can save it as a template and you can also share it with others. So that's not an issue. But there's a lot of pre-built templates that you can use that are already existing as well. Another question was if you're able to access these apps with the student email you get from university. So the answer here is yes and no. It depends on what kind of licenses your university has. So the best way to do is to check would be to log in to office.com and check if you can see PowerAutomate, if you can see PowerApps and so on. And another comment coming from a developer, obviously these no-code apps are much easier than coding this yourself, but how do they compare to building an app by yourself in terms of optimization? Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe let me save this question for at the end. But yeah, it's a very good question, and I'll get back to it, okay? Okay, let's maybe look again at templates here. Let's see if we have anything cool that we can use. And you see here I have a lot of different categories. For example, let's see what happens with remote work. And maybe this is another one that's quite cool. So again, automation that runs, for example, daily, and it checks your calendar and gives you kind of an outlook into what you're going to have that day, which meetings and so on. So let's try this one. Okay, so these are the connectors that will be used. So in this case, it needs to access my user information, my email, and it needs to access weather. I'm just going to continue here. Okay, and we can see that this one is a bit more complicated. So we have variables for flight, hotel, what to send, and so on. But yeah, as you can see, you can start complicating this quite a lot if you want to. So here we have some conditions. For example, if something happens or if something is true, do this. If something isn't true, do that. So the reason why I picked this one is because I don't need to change anything if I don't want to. So I can just go ahead and test it and see if it works the way I want it to work. But if I want to tweak it or maybe change some things, again, I also have the option to do that here. So again, this is more complicated, but don't worry about it. That's why there's a lot of templates made so that you can just use those without any needs to change things. Let me try to save it anyways. So I forgot to set something. Let's see which one is it. Get calendar view of events. This is it. And I need to select to look into my calendar. I'm going to be saving that. All good. Let's try to test it. And run it. Again, going to the run history. It seems like it was successful. And here, if you go under the flow run history, you can also see steps as they happened. So let's say I have 10 steps in this process, and maybe the first 6 steps are working okay, but there's only an issue on the 7th step, for example. I would be able to here click on individual steps, and I see what was happening and if there was any issues. Let me switch to my email really fast to see what was actually sent. So this is it. This is how it styles this. And again, I don't need to even use this one. I can change it up. I can, for example, use any different templates that are already made, or I can just go and start from scratch. So if I go under create, you see here that I have automated cloud flow, meaning if something happens in any of the apps that are supported. Instant cloud flow, so this is the one I have to trigger myself. Scheduled cloud flow, this one means that I have it set up as a recurring thing. And then what's new with PowerAutomate is that now we also have the so-called PowerAutomate desktop. And this is a desktop application that we can install on our computers. And then we can use the same approach that we have here to do cloud automations, so things that are happening on the internet. We can also do it on our computer. So for example, I had an automation once that when any file appeared in one of the folders that my automation was monitoring, so let's say I have a folder called important, And if I put any files there, automatically my computer would draft an email and send it to someone. And all I needed to do is basically just put the file in the folder, and everything else happened automatically. So yeah, that's kind of the second part here, that then you can also automate things on your computers as well. And yeah, connectors, there's a lot of them. Even scheduling Teams chat messages and so on. So yeah, really a lot of things that you can do. But maybe let's wrap up with PowerAutomate here, because there's one more thing that I would like to show, and that is the PowerApps. I see there's no other questions in the chat. If there are, just please type them out. Okay, so PowerApps. The idea of PowerApps is that anyone can be a developer and create their own apps. And with PowerApps, you can basically create either desktop applications, so it's in the form of a web portal that you can use. And then also the same platform allows me to also do mobile apps without or with little or no coding. So the way how it works is, all I need to do is on my mobile phone, I need to install the PowerApps mobile application and sign in with my account. And then here, this is the studio where I can actually create those apps. Now, the easiest way to start with PowerApps is if we start from data. So let's say I have an Excel file with my classmate information. For example, let's say I'm organizing an event and I have an Excel file with all of the information from my classmates that will be attending, or I have some, I don't know, my personal budget information stored in an Excel file, or maybe a database or whatever. I can use that, and basically PowerApps can create an app around that. Okay, so I don't need to start from scratch. I can say, this is my data, and PowerApps will try to build an app around that. What I'm going to do here, because I don't have any Excel files ready right now, I'm going to start from data, and I'm going to use a SharePoint list. Okay, so I'm going to click here. So in SharePoint, I just created the list, defined some of the fields that should be entered, and that's it. So nothing else was done to prepare. So let's say SharePoint, and I have this one, PowerApps test, and this one, connect. Okay, so now it automatically loaded this application and already prepared some things. Now, the way PowerApps works is, I usually say that it's a mixture between PowerPoint and like some programming studio, because we have to define screens. So screens are what's going to be displayed on the actual app. And then all of these, for example, these buttons here are, you can see here icons, then you have a text field, and so on and so on. Now, let me try to run this on my computer. On the right-hand side, I'll go click on play, and this is it. So I can actually use it right now, but let me go and try to add something to this list. So title, okay, so I filled in the information that was required, and I can now click here, and here we are. This is the first entry into this app. Now, just to give you an example, this is the SharePoint list that I created. So it's a regular list, like an Excel file, and it only has columns like title, name, surname, person, age, and I can also add additional ones here if I wanted. But I could do pretty much the same with just an Excel file. And as you can see, PowerApps created an app that fits based on the data that was given. So PowerApps already created a way for me to see all of the information. So this is this screen. I can see all of the inputted information. I have a way to search. I can refresh it here. I can sort it however I want to. And then I can click on individual items. And you see here, I have the data taken from the base. I can delete it, I can edit it, or I can go back and add a different one. For example, 3, 4, and I have pretty much like some basic things already configured automatically. Now, back to the question, comparing PowerApps, for example, or if you do the coding automatically. Now, of course, if we are talking about very complex applications, and if we are thinking about how to optimize them and how to make them as fast as possible, it might be better to code it in natively. So, for example, code it for an iOS or Android device and not use PowerApps. But with PowerApps, there's a whole bunch of things that we can use and a whole bunch of scenarios where PowerApps are useful if we want to make simple applications and also do them as fast as possible. I can actually show you, 1 second, let me just find it. For example, at Microsoft, we use PowerApps for our vacation tool. Just try to find it. Yeah, this is it. And let me reshare my screen just to give you an example on. Okay, let me just sign in really fast. So, for example, we use PowerApps as our vacation tool. If I, for example, want to take a day off, or if I want to call in sick, we have this tool. You can see how many days I have available, what types of days I have available, and then I can submit a new request, for example, for a holiday. I select the dates when I'll be away, so Monday to Friday. Continue. I type in the note from my manager, for example, hi, I want to take those days off, I'll be going on holiday or whatever. And then this app allows me to submit my vacation requests. And then on the other end, my manager also has a similar application, and she gets this request, and then she can approve it or deny it. And then we also have in the background some automation that all of those requests, when they are approved, they are also sent to HR, they are also sent to our finance department so that they know how to calculate my wages and so on. And this is just a quick example, for example, how we internally also use our PowerApp platform in order to deploy applications like this. Okay, let me switch back to my demo. Okay, here it is. There was also a question, are there ways of deploying the application to a specific URL, or if this is just randomly generated? So you can deploy this application as a mobile app, for example, and then people can use it on their phones, but you can also deploy it as a website. So in this case, what you would do is you would, for example, have either a redirect, or you would have a domain associated with a link, and then people could be coming to this website much easier. Yeah. Okay, let me close this down. So yeah, this is kind of the overview of how PowerApps interface looks like. Now, again, let's say I want to start somewhere, but I'm not confident yet if with which I should start. Again, I can start from data. So there's a whole bunch of connectors that I can use in order to start an app. But what I can also do is I can look into, let's go back. If I go under create, there's also some templates already built in here. So for example, there's one for help desk, one for budgeting, one for fundraising, and so on and so on. Now, let's see which one would be most interesting. Okay, let's try this one, suggestion box. Create. While we wait, I see that there is a question, can we connect this app to a database? Yeah, you can. So if you have a database with any sort of data in it, you can connect PowerApps to that database. And then again, PowerApps can try to automatically generate an application for you, or you can do it manually and then try and create an application based on what you have. Okay, so again, this is another one from templates. Let's try to run it. Okay, I'm going to log in as admin. And you can see here, there's again, a whole bunch of things already created, like notification center, or just like this form to start an idea. Now again, we have different screens here. For example, we have a login screen. This is the one that we used first. Then we have the dashboard. This is this one. Idea submit, it's this form. And I can expand any of these views, any of these screens. And you can see here, I have quite a lot of elements in it. So I have a text box, or actually 3 text boxes. I have a submit button, and so on and so on. So if I wanted to, for example, use one of the templates, I could use one of the templates that are available, use it, and then, for example, if I want to change some of the colors, I could go here on the top menu, for example, and I could change the color to something different, for example, like this. Or let's say I want to change the text here, I can bold it. So that's why I said it's a mixture of a programming studio and PowerPoint, because just like with PowerPoint, you have slides. Here you have screens. So each screen is kind of the one screen that will be in the actual app. And then on here on the right-hand side, I have actual things that I can change with the elements that were created. Now, let's say I want to add something to this screen as well. I can go under Insert. And for example, I want to add a button. So the button is now here. I can drag it down, maybe make it a little bigger, and maybe enter help here. So immediately I have the button here. It's not doing anything yet because it's not connected to anything. But I could now use it and start building on what this button should do. For example, let's say let's call it home. And then here on select, this is basically what happens when you click it. And let's say navigate. So this is a function called navigate. It will change and go where I want it to go, on which screen. And I just entered navigate, and then inside I put dashboard because that's where I want to go. Let's see what happens. Boom, it works immediately. So now for the actual sharing of the idea, in this case, I can check the actual code, like what happens when I click on this button. So when I click on submit an idea, you see that there is a bit of code that's entered here. So collect, ideas, ID, and so on and so on. Basically, what this does is just enters the data into a database. So it might look scary, hopefully not, but it might look scary. This is, again, a more complex app. This is a custom-built app, so there is some coding that happened in this case. But I can still look at some of the examples here, maybe just to see how things work and how I can interact with them. There was a question where you can see all of the functions. I will share a link to the documentation, and you can see all of the functions that are available. So yeah, I'll do that after the workshop. Okay. Now, when I'm building this, I can change also what the app icon is going to be like, what some of the colors will be like, if I want to put any limits on how this app will be working. In this case, I can also select how this app is optimized, and you can see here it's optimized for landscape. So landscape screens, and it's made on 16:9 ratio. But also it will try to scale it to fit the whole screen. So yeah, a whole bunch of settings that I can change and tinker with here as well. Now, the most important one is if this is an app that I've been creating. Now, if I want to actually publish it, I can go under File, and let me save it. So it's going to be called Suggestion Box 1436. I'm going to save it. So it's saving it automatically to PowerApps. I don't need to download anything. I don't need to transfer anything to my computer. It's automatically saved to the cloud. And also, as I'm doing this, there's versions of this app. So every time I go and save it, I publish it as a new version. And since this is now created, if I want others to use it as well, I can go here to share. So now let's say I want to add my friend Anna. I select her here. And now I can set her as a co-owner. So basically she will be able to use this app, but also will be able to change the code, change some of the functions. She'll be able to make any changes if she wants to. If I only want her to be a user, then I just share it like this. And that's it. So this application is now created. Not all of the users in this organization will see it. I have to actually give access to this application to those that I want to give. In my case, it's only going to be me and Anna using this. And this is it. So now Anna, if she goes to her PowerApps portal, she'll be able to see this app. And also if she installs PowerApps on her mobile phone, and we have Android and iOS supported here, she will just log in with her account, and this app will automatically be visible for her. So like I said, if we have very complex apps that require some more hardcore features, for example, maybe we should think about whether we want to develop this natively or not. But for a lot of use cases, it makes a lot of sense to use PowerApps. For example, there was a company in Slovenia that used PowerApps as their CRM system. So basically, what they did is they had salesmen, and those salesmen were going to different customer meetings. So they created a Power App that at the end of the meeting, this salesperson was able to make some meeting notes. It was automatically saved to their systems as well. And also, because those sales people were going from customer to customer, they also added the GPS GPS system in it. So basically, at the end of the day, the bosses at the company were able to get a calculation how many kilometers each of the salespeople did that day. And then they were able to aggregate that. And again, what's cool about the Power Platform, both PowerApps and PowerAutomate, you can then use the data that's generated here, for example, and put it into Power BI. So you can have very interactive dashboards and very good reporting data. So you can do that. Or, for example, you can use the data that people are inputting into this application and trigger different PowerAutomate flows. For example, you could do in PowerApps, you could do, let me switch back. So for example, you could create a button, and then on this button, you can say, let's trigger a PowerAutomate flow when this button is clicked. So you can combine the two tools as well, so that, for example, you could have a button here saying send email, and PowerApps would take the information that is inputted into those three fields here, would pass the information to PowerAutomate, and then PowerAutomate would send an email, for example. So a whole bunch of connectivity that can be added. And also, if I click on here, let me go under. Looks like they moved it. Yeah, under insert. For example, I can easily add all sorts of elements to this app. For example, if I want a date picker, I just drag it and drop it here, and this is now added to my app. Or if I want a slider, see how that works. So you see I have a slider. So no need to code any of this. I just basically select it, put it in. You can see here I have default set to 50. I could change it to 20, for example. Just do it like that. Maximum, minimum. So yeah, really a whole bunch of things that I can do. And then maybe add this as well. So if I have camera here, and now PowerApps should be able to access my camera. Yeah, there we are. So again, the camera feed, all I did was I added it into the app. No need to code anything. Or if I want, for example, microphone so that I can record something, again, add it in here. A barcode scanner, for example, is already pre-built as well. Then all sorts of shapes, charts even, and also if I have some things for mixed reality that I'm developing, again, just drag it and drop it in. So I know that we didn't have enough time to go through everything in PowerApps. My goal here wasn't to teach you how to use it, because we have really a lot of good training materials on Microsoft Learn, and everything is free there, of course. There's also certifications that you can do. For example, there's the PowerApps Creator as a certificate and so on. So you can do that as well. The goal here was really just to show you how quickly we can go from having some data, for example, in a database or in an Excel file or maybe in SharePoint or whatever, take that data and build an app around it. Okay. So yeah, let's say I'm satisfied with my creation here. Again, I can try it out, I can run it, I can see how it works. I have the date picker here, I have the slider here. I can close it now. And when I'm satisfied, again, I can save it. So autosave is on. So even if I'm doing some of the changes, autosave is on. But when I go and save it manually, this is like the newer version. So new version 1.1, for example. save it, and then again I can see all of the versions of this app that I created. And you see this one is live, but this one is just saved, which means that I can use, or I can take the same app that people are actually using right now. I can build on it, I can save it, I can do new versions, but until I publish it, people won't get the newer updates. So if I want to publish, I have to click here. It asks me again if I want to publish it. I'll say yes. And that's it. So what happens then is that if someone is already running this app, so if someone has it open, a little banner appears on the top that says there's a new app version available. Click here to update. They press it, app reloads, and that's it. But they can also just next time they close and reopen this application, they will get the newest version installed automatically. So the updating part, I don't have to rely on my users to update their apps. Okay, and again, very good and very easy to integrate it. For example, I can add this to Teams. And here, if I click on Add to Teams, it will ask me where I want to add it. So I can have apps that I create in PowerApps, and then just add to one of my teams, for example, for other teammates to work on. And here it is. I have it right here. Now it's loading, and you see I have it inside of Teams. No need to go anywhere else. So if I want to deploy this, for example, for everyone in my organization, I would just share it with them and then add it as a tab to Teams, for example, and they will be able to use it immediately. Okay, and with that, I'm going to slowly finish. So yeah, maybe just a quick wrap up and a bit of a summary. Like I mentioned, if you want to look at everything that's available to you as students, feel free to log in to office.com. There you can go under all apps and you'll see everything that you have available here. So if I go under all apps, so here it is. Those are apps that are available to me. Those of you who are or who will become student ambassadors, again, you get access to $150 of monthly Azure credit. This is, trust me, more than enough to play around, test some things, have maybe a couple of virtual machines, or maybe do some chatbots or do some storage or whatever. So really, it's up to you how you want to use it. And then, yeah, I wanted to focus today more on PowerApps and PowerAutomate, because with those two, anyone can start automating things, anyone can start building apps, and it's no longer a requirement to be a programmer or to have a lot of knowledge. Basically, the idea here is to take a process or to take some data and start building automations around that, or basically building towards it. Okay, and with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.